My name is Sarah Giskin, and I live in Philadelphia. I met Emmett through If Not Now. If Not Now is basically a Jewish organizing group of young American Jews looking to organize against the Israeli occupation of Palestine.
How do you think that shaped the kind of network of care?
Gotcha. Yeah. I think when Emmett was becoming sicker and entered hospice, he basically tapped into his network of friends, organizing comrades to be there for him and be his support network and help him out, spend time together socially while he was still able to. At least half of the people that were involved, from my perspective, were people that knew Emmett through organizing, whether it was If Not Now, groups he had been involved in. Yeah, I don't know per se if people who are activists and organizers necessarily have different skills than people who aren't, but I think there were definitely stuff that people did, making spreadsheets to keep track of who was going to be with Emmett which day and time, and organizing events and stuff. Like we had events at Emmett's hospice room, like parties and stuff, and organizing who was going to bring what. And it definitely helped that the people in Emmett's community had certain skills in terms of just communicating and making getting an event together.
Can you tell me how it was organized?
I would say that I wasn't central people that was organized Emmett's care. I was more so a person that I was brought in and I was involved, but I wasn't organizing it. But I would say it was really just a small group of Emmett's friends and loved ones working together to make sure he was cared for and felt care and felt community that ending time of his life. There was a Facebook group, I think, where people were communicating. There was definitely group texts. There are definitely spreadsheets. Yeah, there were just a lot of virtual digital spaces where people were sort of checking in and organizing stuff and keeping track of stuff. I think in any group of people doing something together, there's people who sort of naturally emerge as leaders, whether it was because they were closer to Emmett or they just had the capacity. I think there were definitely people who stepped up to be more sort of leading or in charge, just to be the person who was coordinating, who was reaching out to other people and making stuff happen. Everyone isn't going to do that equally. When I got a text, oh, hey, can you hang out with Emmett on this day, this time? I'd be like, sure, if I could, versus the person who's doing all the texting and reaching out to people and finding people to fill the gaps. But there was definitely a number of people filling that role, and it was somewhat fluid. He was wanting to have someone to stay overnight with him every night so that he just wouldn't feel alone. And people have families and jobs and all sorts of other commitments. So I think, yeah, it wasn't perfect. Definitely people were doing their best. Having a group of people doing it together made it feel like if you needed to take a step back, you could.
Who were some of the people who were doing that kind of coordination?
Daniel, Jordan Tatel, Sarah Barish was definitely around. Adam Blayman was definitely there sometimes. I don't think he was a main organizer, but I remember one time we had a salsa dance party in Emmett's hospice room. We were eating salsa and chips and then also dancing salsa. It's funny. But Adam actually knows how to dance salsa, so that was great because I don't think anyone else did.
There were so many different things that happened there.
Yeah, it's nice memories. We were really sad that Emmett was dying, but it was nice that he made the most of it and he spent his time how he wanted to spend it with people.
Emmett offered us hospitality.
Yeah. The last time I hung out with Emmett, it was just the two of us, one-on-one. I was the only person there. He asked me to make a sign to put on the door of his room that said, "New friends always welcome here," which I made. I still have it actually because I kept it after he died. He wanted the other hospice patients to know they could come in and hang out, which is really sweet. Obviously, most of them did not have the capacity to walk around and come into the room, but he just wanted people to know. Yeah, sorry.
I remember that sign, but I didn't know that story. I didn't know that you were the one who created that sign. I just remember walking in and seeing the sign and being like, that is the spirit of Emmett.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone was just a new friend he hadn't met.
Said it is just definitely his His personality, just wanting to make new friends, even in like the last week of his life.
He was the most welcoming. It was
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. He was in one hospice in downtown Philly. I think that was the first one he was. Then he moved to the other one, which was like Chestnut Hill, much farther out. But we still, everybody made it out there. I definitely remember driving people because I have a car driving up there. And I worked up there sometimes because I worked for the library and I was at different libraries, sometimes in the Northwest. So it wasn't super out of the way for me. For other people, yeah, it's hard to get there. So yeah, we definitely worked together.
if 3 or more people think something is a good idea.
Right. Right. Mm. Yeah, I mean, it was an extension of that in a way. One of our community members is going through something and he's asking for this kind of support, and we're gonna step up and do it. And I wasn't super close with Emmett before. I knew him through, if not now, we saw each other at meetings, sometimes at protests. I didn't really know him super well one on one. I got to know him better through this process, like, while he was dying, because we hung out a bunch and we spent time together one on one at times when I was the only person in his room with him. And just we had never had that one on one relationship before, really.
And he was always just happy to spend the time.
Yeah. And he always just had interesting things to say and was fun to hang out with. I definitely met a lot of people with EDS that Emmett was the only person I knew that had it before, and now I know several and other disabilities too, for sure. He just brought so much personality to the room, to the space.
What did his hospice room look like?
The second one that he was in, the final one that he was in, was the hospice facility was this old, it seemed like a big house mansion that had been converted into a hospice. The room was pretty big. His bed was in the middle. There was a lot of room around. I guess there were chairs because we would all hang out there, but people would also sit on the floor. There was art, drawings people had done. I don't know if it was like stuffed animals, but I feel like there was toys or just like stuff around. There were books usually around. People's coats and people's bags. Like it looked like a very lived in kind of space.
You know how Emmett referred to that hospice center as a creepy Airbnb?
Yeah, that sounds right.
His room was really beautiful.
Yeah. And I remember, so at one point, he wanted to have a wedding. We bought a bunch of decorations to have a wedding. I bought a wreath, different wedding-y thing, fabric to hang, like white lacy fabric to hang on stuff. The little on that sign that I made on the front of his door, the little flowers on it, I think stickers that I had bought when we were like getting wedding supplies, and it was meant to be like aesthetically pleasing, and it didn't feel like a room where someone was dying.
And I wanted him to die surrounded by beauty and like rainbows because he loved those.
Yeah. I remember there was a fabric banner. I don't know if people had signed it or there were messages on it or something. I remember that being hung up. Shortly after Emmett died, marched with that, carried that banner at Dyke March.
Jordan said she wanted to be able to take him everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. He wants to experience all the aspects of life that he's able to while he's still here. And that was one of them. So that was kind of why I was like, this is what Emmett wants. Like, sure, I'll go buy some flowers. I can understand it. Like he obviously was aware of the things that he was going to be missing in life. And I think he just wanted to do everything he could while he was still there.
He loved ritual.
Yeah.
He wanted to do all of the rituals because he'd already had a living funeral.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him being like, well, let's do a wedding now. And he was like, maybe a bar.
Yeah, right.
I think what he really wanted was he wanted all of his people around him. A wedding does that. A wedding brings all your people around you. How he was envisioning his death would be a party that's slowly winding down. Have you seen the show Umbrella Academy?
Yes.
You know the episode called A Wedding at the End of the World?
Yeah.
When I watched that, I thought, oh, I understand now.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I think that is how he felt. Yeah. I mean, honestly, his approach to death is so different than anything I've ever seen from anyone else. Just the degree of acceptance, especially at such a young age. He was not happy about it. He wanted to live as long as he could, but he was just like, yeah, this is happening. I'm just going to do what I can, enjoy my time and experience the things I want to experience while I can.
What kind of lessons do you think we can learn about disability and chronic illness and organizing from Emmett?
A good question. I think that one thing I reflect on from Emmett is he was so confident in his friendships and his community. If I was in his position, I would be so much more worried about being a burden to other people or that I was bothering people by asking for support. Maybe he had those feelings internally. I don't know. It didn't seem like that. He was just, this is me. I'm your friend. This is the help I need. And of course, people were happy to be there for him in the ways that they could. Yeah, it definitely makes me think about having that kind of faith and confidence in your community. You ask for your needs to be met. I mean, if you're in a good community of people that you trust and that care about you, yeah, people are happy to help. People want to support you, and you have to allow that to happen and don't isolate yourself because you're afraid of being rejected or you're afraid that people won't be there to catch you. You have to go for it, and you'll find that people do want to be there for you. It's especially impressive just knowing the things that he experienced, losing his parents at a very young age, basically coming into a whole new family, obviously on top of all his physical illness and challenges. He had so much faith in people. Yeah, and I think, there's a degree of intimacy, being vulnerable enough to ask for help and to ask for support instead of pretending everything's fine. Emmett couldn't pretend everything was fine. He was dying. It was obvious that he needed support in various ways, but he didn't shy away from it. He was like, yeah, this is me. This is what I'm dealing with. This is the support I need. I definitely aspire to be able to advocate for myself in the way that Emmett advocated for himself. Yeah, I don't know. It's really impressive. I think that just shows that he just had so much faith in people and in his community. Despite his difficult experiences in life, he still had such a positive outlook.
I think a lot of people who knew him feel more safe to ask for help now.
Yeah, and to not have shame in it. There's no shame in needing support. And Emmett, I think, really embodied that. It wasn't a one-way street, obviously. At that point in Emmett's life, he needed a lot. He had a lot of needs, social, emotional, physical, for other people to support him. Also, like, gave a lot to other people.
His friendships were always reciprocal.
He was really good at remembering like details about people, or like a previous conversation you had. I didn't feel like I knew that well before going into his hospice care support network. He would remember stuff, like a conversation we had 2 years ago that I barely remembered, and he kept track of everyone, what he remembered about who they are and what they do and what their scene is, and the choice that people were making to be there for Emmett. We also did things there with Emmett in the room. This is happening right now. You only die once, and Emmett is wanting to die in this way, surrounded by community and surrounded by friends. I'm going to be there for him. Emmett definitely sort of, I mean, he attracted people, so he just sort of, people wanted to be where he was. So I think that sort of paved a way for, like, yeah, we're going to make this work. We're going to do what we need to do to get people there and to make it possible for people to be here. And everyone brought their own vibe also to the space. I remember people bringing snacks and people bringing different stuff to do, games, and everyone contributed sort of what they had, and sort of, and it was different every time you were there based on who was there, what the vibe was. And yeah, it was definitely a really unique space and thing to experience, honestly. It's nice to kind of reflect on that time, and I think about Emmett all the time, but I miss the community. It sucked because Emmett was dying, but it was nice. It was a nice space to be a part of.